Waking up in the morning, we all want to prepare ourselves for a brand new day. We all want our appearances to look presentable as we face other people in online meetings or in person as we continue to finish our tasks. Doesn't looking good make us feel more productive and inspired in accomplishing errands all day? It does, right? But with these everyday occurrences, have you ever deeply wondered how they all work? In today's video, we will be talking about how physics is applied in using makeup or cosmetics in general. Stay tuned so you can gain some tips. Isn't it fascinating how physics can be in everything we do? As makeup can be one of the usual hobbies, we can notice the aspects of physics that are present or even quite unobservable. Let's start off with how we apply makeup. Whether you're using a makeup brush or a makeup sponge to get that flawless finish, you create a lot of friction on your face. In fact, the level of friction you apply will determine the quality of your way of application. When there's not enough friction, you'll look like a patchy mess. When too much, your skin may get irritated and defeat the goal of your makeup. A perfect balance of friction is what will lead you to a soft blend and smooth finish. The big physics principle behind makeup is trying to combat the force of gravity and using friction to help the makeup apply. It's time to dive in deeper in this topic. As mentioned several times, how do we explain friction? All the makeup on your face is applied with some amount of friction helping you out. Whether you're applying lipstick from a tube or using a brush to put on eyeshadow, you're counting on friction to put that stuff on your face. You also count on the force of friction to keep your makeup on your face throughout the day. If there was no friction, the makeup would fall right off your face.
What is the definition of friction in physics? According to T. Ghost from Life Science, friction is the resistance to motion of one object moving relative to another. It is not a fundamental force like gravity or electromagnetism. Instead, scientists believe it is the result of electromagnetic attraction between charged particles in two touching surfaces. Friction describes the force between two surfaces when you try to move one across the other. The force resists motion, and in most cases, the force acts in the opposite direction to the motion. Down at the molecular level, when you press two surfaces together, minor imperfection in each surface can interlock. There may be attractive forces between the molecules of one material and the other. These factors make it harder to move them past each other. You don't work at this level when you calculate the force of friction, though. For everyday situations, physicists group all of these factors together in the coefficient. Tackling it more scientifically, here is how we can calculate the force of friction. The amount of friction mainly depends on the normal force, which surfaces exert on the object sitting on them, as well as the characteristics of the specific surface you're considering. For most purposes, you can use the formula friction is equals to the coefficient times the normal force. To calculate friction, with N standing for the normal force and the symbol pronounced as mu, incorporating the characteristics of the surface. Just as we have discussed, when two surfaces contact and slide against each other, there is a generated force called the frictional force. More to this, we have three types of frictional forces related to friction in makeup: the kinetic friction, static friction, and fluid friction. Kinetic friction is when two systems are in contact and moving relative to one another, somehow like rolling friction. All the makeup is applied with an amount of friction helping it out. Whether we're applying lipstick from a tube or using a brush to put on eyeshadow, we're counting on friction to put that stuff on our faces. Static friction acts on objects when they are resting on a surface. We also count on the force of friction to keep our makeup on our faces throughout the day. If there was no friction, the makeup would fall right off. Fluid friction is friction that acts on objects that are moving through fluid. The faster or larger a moving object is, the greater is the fluid friction resisting its motion. How can makeup be related to it? Well, we can say that there is fluid friction inside the liquid products that we use. And the resistance present in this force is a big help as we apply makeup. Now we realize that we don't just apply makeup to our face and hope it stays smooth. We use friction to apply makeup and count on its purpose to let the makeup have a blended finish on our face. Here are some tips related to properly blending makeup. For foundation, start in the middle and blend out, and apply it in thin layers so you don't end up with a caked on effect. For blending eyeshadows, always work in one direction only, which is outward, and don't sweep the brush over the entire lid. For using a lip liner, make sure the liner matches either your lipstick or the color of your lips. Don't worry too much about blending if you're just using a gloss. When you're all finished blending, don't forget to set everything with a light dusting of translucent powder or a mist of setting spray. That will be all for this video discussing the relation of physics and makeup. I hope you've gained knowledge that can help you. Happy blending, beauties!